Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it has been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up. Thank you.
That was Ron Paul only 3 years ago grilling the then head of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, on whether gold is money. Now I want you to listen to Alan Greenspan speaking on the Council on Foreign Relations, October 29th. I reported earlier in the week that Alan Greenspan came out and said that gold was the place to be. This was at the Council of Foreign Relations, which is the elite think tank founded by the Rockefellers that runs this country. Here is the uncut version that was left out of the video of the Council on Foreign Relations and the transcript. Listen for yourself to hear what the insiders think about gold.
Do you think that gold is currently a good investment given what you're saying about the potential for turmoil?
Yes.
Do you put...
I mean, economists are usually perfect in equivocating. In this case, I didn't equivocate. Look, remember what we're looking at. Gold is a currency. It is still, by all evidences, the premier currency where no fiat currency, including the dollar, can match it. And so that the issue is, if you're looking at a question of turmoil, you will find, as we always have in the past, it moves into the gold price. But the gold price is actually sort of half a commodity price. So when the economy is weakening, it goes down like copper. But it's also got a monetary characteristic which is intrinsic. It's not inbred into human beings. I cannot conceive of any mechanism by which you could say that, but it behaves as though it is. Intrinsic currencies like gold and silver, for example, are acceptable without a third-party guarantee. And I mean, for example, at the end of World War II, or just at the end of it, Germany could not import goods without payment in gold. The person who shipped the goods in would accept the gold and didn't care if there's any credit standard associated with it. That is a very rare phenomenon. It's the reason why, for example, in a renewal of an agreement that the central banks have made, European central banks, I believe, about allocating their gold sales, which occurred when gold prices were falling down, that has been renewed this year with a statement that gold serves a very important place in monetary reserves. And the question is, why do central banks put money into an asset which has no rate of return, but cost of storage and insurance and everything else like that? Why are they doing that? If you look at the data, with a very few exceptions, all of the developed countries have gold reserves. Why?
Well, I imagine right now it's because of a question mark hanging over the value of fiat currency or the credibility going forward.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Every time you get some really serious question, the 50% of the gold price determination begins to move.
Right.
And I think it is fascinating. And I don't know, is Ben Steele in the audience?
Yes.
There he is, okay. Before you read my book, go read Ben's book. The reason is you'll find it fascinating on exactly this issue, because here you had the ultimate test at the Mount Washington Hotel in 1944 of the real intellectual debate between those who wanted an international fiat currency which was embodied in John Maynard Keynes' construct of a bank corps, and he was there in 1944, holding forth with all of his prestige, but couldn't counter the fact that the United States dollar was convertible into gold, and that was the major draw. Everyone wanted America's gold, and I think that Ben really described that in extraordinarily useful terms as far as I can see. Anyway, thank you.
Right. Well, I'm sure with comments like that, that will be turning you into a rock star amongst the gold bug community.
So there you have it. The most celebrated central banker of our time, Alan Greenspan, coming out to the most powerful insider group in the world and telling them that gold and silver are the place to be. And of course, this should not come as a surprise to anybody who has looked into this, because in 1966, Alan Greenspan wrote in The Objectivist, Gold and Economic Freedom, in which he concluded that in the absence of a gold standard, there is no way to protect savings from the confiscation through inflation. There is no safe store of value, for if there were, the government would make this holding illegal, as it is done in the case of gold. If everyone decided, for example, to convert all of his bank deposits to silver or copper or any other good, and thereafter declined to accept checks as payment for goods, bank deposits would lose their purchasing power, and the government-created bank credit would be worthless as the claims on goods. The financial policy of the welfare state requires that there be no way for the owners of wealth to protect themselves. This is the shabby secret of welfare statist tirades against gold. Deficit spending is simply a scheme of confiscation of wealth. Gold stands in the way of this insidious process. It stands as the protector of property rights. And if one grasps this, one has no difficulty in understanding the statist antagonism towards the gold standard. These insiders know that their paper scheme is falling apart. At the end of the day, only gold and silver will be left standing because of their intrinsic value that has lasted throughout thousands of paper currencies. And it is not just the Western elite that know this secret. It is also China, Russia, India, and all these other nations that are stacking gold hand over fist, knowing that this Ponzi scheme will ultimately collapse. But what all these masters of the universe don't know is the true story about silver. Gold and silver come out of the ground at a 1:9 ratio. For every 1 ounce of gold that's mined, 9 ounces of silver is mined. Currently, the gold to silver ratio is 1:72. In order for the gold to silver ratio to get back to its natural ratio, silver would have to go up 7 times relative to whatever gold price may go up to. And it is my belief that we have used and abused all of the silver that has been above ground for generations, to the point now where there's far less physical silver above ground than there is gold, and that I believe that we will actually reach a 1-to-1 gold to silver ratio when this scheme comes apart. Please share this with everybody that you know. For those that don't listen to the elite insiders, or to the actions of the Chinese and the Russians, or the history of money that gold and silver both represent, or to common sense and logic, they are exposing themselves and future generations to generational suicide of serfdom.
And when I asked a senior member of the Obama administration last week, how are we going to grow exports if we won't allow nominal wage deflation? And he says, we're just going to kill the dollar. And I said, okay, more you mean.